And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PSBTA Technical Solutions webinar series. My name is Martha Ellis, and I am the Executive Director of the Public Safety Broadband Technology Association, or the PSBTA. As an association, our primary objective is to work as a broadband end user advocate for first responders and service providers. Another role that we strive to fill is keeping FirstNet users and prospective users apprised of cutting-edge changes that continue to take place on our nation's only public safety broadband network, FirstNet. Before we get started today, we have a few housekeeping items I need to go over. All attendees have automatically been muted to reduce background noise. Any questions should be submitted directly to us through the questions function, which is located at the bottom of the GoToWebinar control panel on the right side of your screen. Questions will be answered at the end of our panel discussions, and we will attempt to answer as many questions as possible and follow up with those that we don't get to during the live portion of the webinar. We will also provide email addresses, so if you have additional questions after we conclude today, you can send them to us directly. One final item I would like to bring to your attention is the PSBTA's Vision FirstNet User Summit in Las Vegas, Nevada, September 19th through the 22nd. You do not need to be a FirstNet user to attend, but if you want to learn more about what is going on in the world of FirstNet and the ecosystem that it supports, the summit will provide attendees a glimpse into the future, an opportunity to contribute to the ongoing development of FirstNet ecosystem, and receive in-depth training on several of the unique features of FirstNet and the hardware and software that it brings to life. For more information, please visit vision.thepsbta.org, and we really hope to see you there. The First Responders Network Authority and FirstNet built with AT&T work continually to build the most reliable, functional, and accessible network designed for the sole purpose of supporting first responders. There's been a lot of buzz around the 5G rollout, and many have asked what kind of access will first responders have to 5G? How will it affect emergency broadband communications? And are there upgrade considerations with the transition? I'd like to welcome Eldon Mast with Sierra Wireless and Mike Barney with FirstNet built with AT&T, who will help shed some light on the 5G transition and what it could mean to you. Welcome, gentlemen, and thank you for being with us today. And with that, I am going to turn the time over to Mike to get us started with our webinar, Unlock the FirstNet 5G Experience for First Responders with Sierra Wireless Solutions.
Thank you, Martha. We appreciate that introduction. I'm Mike Barney with AT&T with the Mission Critical Solutions team. My function and that of my teammates is specifically to help customers like yourselves understand technology, what's here today, what's coming in the near future. So with that, let's get started with FirstNet 5G and Mega Range. It's important to note that this is not a single network or single band when we speak of FirstNet. It is a very intelligent network that routes traffic dedicated to public safety users, not only over band 14, former D block, some of you people know that by that, but also over all the LTE spectrum that AT&T has, and now the AT&T 5G spectrum. All simultaneously, the routing on that is done very efficiently and very intelligently to provide the very, very best coverage and content management for each and every one of you. So when you start looking at 5G, there's a lot of different things, and people say, well, it's just faster speed, or it's just this, or it's just that. There's really 5 different components to 5G that we're going to talk about here that really make this up. Now, I'm going to ask the questions rhetorically since you don't have your webcams on, but just virtually raise your hands if you have voice control such as Alexa or Bixby, a Ring doorbell, smart door locks, Wemo switches, a Wise camera, Nest thermostat, smoke alarms. I could go on and on, but I've only got about 20 minutes here, so I'm going to stop there. There's a lot of things that people have connected, and it's not just individually, but also when you start looking for agencies, traffic cams, traffic sensors, weather information. There's a lot of different things that really are going to help this transformation. It's called the Massive IoT Connectivity, or IoT for short. What does this mean? It means we're moving a lot more data from individual sensors to people to situational awareness engines to make better decisions faster so the best possible outcome for public safety can be had. Second part of this with the 5G transformation is ultra low latency. What does that really mean? Low latency. Don't I want high latency? No, we want low latency. What low latency means is from the time I speak to the time it gets to you, that's the latency. That's how long it takes to leave my mouth to go over the system and into your ears. We want that to be as absolutely short as possible. Number one, it helps you make faster decisions. Number two, if I can get your information on and off that network faster, then you're going to have a substantially better performance and a much better user experience. The next part of this is ultra reliability. What you're seeing now as we transform from LTE and 4G networks to 5G networks is a much more reliable network. We're literally adding additional components. We're providing better routing. We're doing things to provide advanced network connectivity, not only from you to other users, but also in particular from you to the core and then back out. What all this really comes to is the fourth tenet of 5G transformation, and that's better throughput. All of that information that you want to send can get through faster, quicker, more accurately, simply because the network is better, it's faster, the latency is less. This all culminates with ultra high speeds. Typically, that's the herald of what 5G means to most people. Hey, it's really fast. I can get gigabit speeds here, whereas before I couldn't. So when you look at these five major components of 5G, what you really find out is that it really does work better. It really does move public safety further ahead to where you can make the very best decisions with the best information as quickly as possible. So there's primarily three flavors of 5G, and we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail in the following slides. The first is enhancements to LTE Advanced. We're literally taking the existing network and upgrading it to provide a lot of the enhancements we just talked about. That's called 5GE. The second part, which everybody talks about, is that, those gigabit speeds, 5G plus. It's millimeter wave. It's typically very, very high frequency spectrum, and it allows you to have that much, much faster capability than you currently have. Then there's a sweet spot. Some people call it the Goldilocks spectrum. This is really the spectrum right kind of in the middle. It's not too low, it's not too high, it's just right, where you get both the advantage of capacity, the higher speeds, but you also get better penetration than you would with the millimeter waves. From a spectrum point of view, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on here, you can just see in general, band 14, the D block is down here. It's considered low band. You start coming up into mid band, into 3 to 6 gigahertz. That's where you have some of the Goldilocks spectrum. And then you look at the high band spectrum. In this case, 39 gigahertz is where we're starting to provide the higher 5G speeds. So let's look at these in a little more detail for each. If you look on this low band 5G spectrum you've been using already, it's like vanilla. It's a rich vanilla. It works well. It tastes great. You get very good coverage, as you can see here. You get tremendous coverage, being able to reach way out, and you get enough speed. Now, what is enough speed? Some people say, well, you can never have enough. But in reality, what do you need? What does a public safety person need? They need voice, they need data, they need telemetry. We're seeing a lot more real-time video coming out. If you add all those up, typically it's a full HD feed. That's a pretty common unit of measure, and it's about 5 megabits. It might be a little more, it might be a little less on the particular programming and the pictures, but it's about 5 megabits. And with that, if you use that as a measure, what you find is that you really can reach way out with 5 megabits. This utility worker over on the far side here, for instance, really can be sending real-time video of that incident that he's at back through the network and then back to his command center to where they can help him come out with the best solution and the best results. Then you get to the high band. That's what everybody's talking about right now. Ooh, I love that chocolate. It's great. It's rich. I can go really, really fast, but you'll also notice that I can't go very far with it. Typically, it's about 100 meters. This is a function of the laws of physics. You can go really fast for a short distance, or you can go really long for you can go relatively slow for a much longer distance. So if you look at the chocolate flavor here, it's typically the higher frequencies, above 24 gigahertz. The speed is incredibly good, but the coverage is typically not nearly what you have today. So realize when you're in a stadium that has a lot of 5G, everybody's got 5G coverage because there may be literally 100 5G nodes inside there. But when you get out in that rural part of the state or the county, 5G is not really going to have the reach. 5G high band really is not going to have that reach. And then there's the cookies and cream. This is the best of all three worlds. Mid-band, Goldilocks, whatever you want to call it, it gives you a very good mix of both penetration in and through buildings, plus a reasonable range. You're talking about low miles here, potentially. But it gives you that good mix to where you do have increased throughput, way above the 5 megabits. Typically, you're talking about low 100 megabits, something on that order. So I hope that makes sense. But then there's another question that comes up, but isn't there really a fourth flavor? Cookie dough. Well, you know, there kind of is, but technically no. Cookie dough is mega range. What does mega range do? As you can see in this picture right here. Well, when you're out on the prairie or in the hills, you're away from civilization, you're a long way from a cell tower. Cookie dough, or mega range in this case, lets you reach way, way out. We're going to give you a couple of examples of this as to what it is and what it can do. This is called mega range. This is only available on FirstNet. It is not available legally by any other carrier. It is can only be used on band 14. It is exclusive technology to AT&T and FirstNet. You typically see with higher power, and that's what we're doing. In your user device, we're increasing your power from 200 milliwatts up to about 1.25 watts, about 5 to 6 times increase in that power level. What does that do? If you're an RF engineer or radio person, you know that if I quadruple the power, I should double my range. In this case, we're going up about 6 times. What that does is it gives you a solid signal much further out, so you have the ability to reach that tower in places where coverage is not as good as you would like it to be. This is a standards based on 3GPP industry standards. The power is limited to 1.25 watts, but what we're seeing, and you'll see some examples of that here in a minute, is substantially greater coverage than what users had before. What does mega range really do for you? It's really simple. It's going to give you, particularly in rural, frontier, or other areas where the coverage is not as good as you would like it to be, the highest LTE communications availability of any type of cellular communications, period. Simple diagram here. With mega range, the power density is substantially higher from your transmitter reaching back to the tower. That is the weak link. The tower is putting out about 40 watts. Your normal device is putting about 1/5 of a watt. By increasing that up 6 times, up to about 1.25 watts, I am able to reach out further back to that tower and provide coverage, whether it's a fixed location or whether it's a mobile application. What we're finding is that mega range allows you to reach way out, and it allows you to be able to have that connectivity and assurance that you need when you're working out in a tough area. Whether you're a primary responder or an extended primary responder, mega range can be the difference in providing coverage and not. Several different options here. There's actually many different options here, but what this slide really says is very simple. We work on all of the current AT&T bands, the mega range modems do, but it only transmits at the higher power on band 14, okay? A lot of that has to do with band 14 is a new band, and additional protections could be more easily added to that than you could in trying to retrofit an existing band. If coverage is adequate, you have something called PC3, Power Class 3. It transmits at the normal 200 milliwatts as opposed to the 1.25 watts when you get out far enough and you need that extra punch. The modems do provide MIMO capability, and they also have GPS, or also generically called GNSS capability. So does this really work? Well, the Coast Guard says yes. There was a terrible diving accident about 5 years ago off the California coast with a boat called the Concepcion. The Coast Guard had spotty LMR coverage. What they really needed, because of the fire, they really needed the situational awareness that real-time video could provide them. They looked at a lot of options, and what they found is there really wasn't a good option that didn't require a lot of setup, not only on the vessel, but also back on shore when they needed that video. So they asked, hey, is it possible for us to be able to have video over the cell system? Tom Bellata, the person who actually created this, president of Assured Wireless, actually said, yes, we can solve this problem. And they did. So about 2 years ago, we actually took some mega range equipment out, put it on the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Halibut right here, cruised around out to 28 miles around the Channel Islands. And what we found here, the results are summarized here. Consistently, they were getting about 14 to 15 megabits out to 25 miles. They did get about 14.7 megabits out at 28 miles. And the average upload and download speed was about 16. So the whole point is we can take video faster, much better antenna. We can push video further, much higher transmit power, and provide the Coast Guard that real time substantially better. In this case, about 3 HD feeds is what this would support. So with that, I thank you for your time. Martha, I will pass this back to Eldon, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at the end of the session.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Great to be with you all, and thanks for the great introduction, Martha, at the top of the presentation. Really excited to be on this webinar with Mike in particular. Have done quite a bit of work with Mike and his AT&T mission critical team to really, I mean, the title says it all, to unlock that first 5G experience along with mega range. And it's been quite a ride in terms of being able to put together solutions at Sierra Wireless that meet all of those various radio access connections. I feel like at the end of this presentation, I'm going to go get a banana split with vanilla, hot chocolate, cookies and cream, cookie dough, because ultimately that's what we're doing with AT&T FirstNet. Our routers are not just 5G routers, not just mega range routers, but they're the complete 5G solution, along with remote management, along with the ability to move from 4G to 5G to mega range seamlessly, and to manage it all on one platform and interconnect to the FirstNet core in a way that is seamless to you as a user. We're excited about the new AirLink routers, the next generation 5G routers. They really are the best routers that I've seen on the planet. They allow for a seamless migration from that 4G RAN architecture through the mega range interconnection, through this best-in-class 5G Goldilocks spectrum that Mike has referred to. we brought you as Sierra Wireless the whole spectrum of a large portfolio of FirstNet ready routers, and our XR series routers continue that best-in-class performance, as well as in-market penetration to whatever you need in your vehicles, around your vehicles, in your station houses, whether you're a primary user or an extended primary user. What we're about at Sierra Wireless is providing you the best in class, both in outdoor environments and indoor environments, whether it's 4G or 5G, interconnecting to give you that best in class and with priority and preemption, along with the best antennas to support the routers. Again, it's not just routers, but a complete solution. I mentioned the routers, but every one of our new routers, every one of our 5G routers now comes with 24/7 support, comes with a remote management platform. The 5G routers come already activated on an LPWA radio connected over AT&T. You don't use that connection for routing. You still need to activate a FirstNet SIM in that device. But out of the box, you can remotely manage your router. You have a 1-year hardware warranty. All those services come included with the router for a period of 5 years. You can also, alternatively, we can provide you with a 5-year warranty option and 5 years of services, but with no additional charge. All of the routers come with 1 year of these services, second to none in the industry. We can help you in terms of understanding what the router placement needs to be, which antennas to use for those routers, to minimize your coax runs, to maximize your power throughput, like Mike said, and make sure that you get the best interconnection to your user equipment in and around your vehicles, or in and around your station. I'm not going to talk about the details of these of each one of these. Just suffice to say, as we move into 5G technologies, antennas become more and more important. More and more antenna elements are included in a dome, so you'll be seeing 10-in-1 elements, 10-in-1 up to additional elements even beyond 10-in-1 in the future. Just know that when you start with Sierra and when you start with FirstNet or Mega Range, you're going to be provided with the best-in-class interconnection with those antennas. And we can provide you the 5G antennas along with the 4G LTE antennas, both in single radio configurations or dual radio configurations, where you may wish to have not only FirstNet, but your other carrier of choice in a very convenient cartridge formulation with the XR series. So just a snapshot of all the various applications that you can use with a routing engine that interconnects, again, to the top of the screen here, to public safety cellular, FirstNet band 14, even a satellite configuration if you so choose, and on the drop side interfaces, the ability to connect to your body-worn cameras, interconnect LMR radios, your Motorola radios, extend the reach of your LMR talk groups over FirstNet, even when those LMR systems may have holes in coverage, you will begin to see that FirstNet will fill in those coverage holes for your LMR radio sets. And of course, many of you are already using ticketing devices and other video camera solutions. Again, the XR series, starting with the XR80 LTE and moving to the XR80 5G, are purpose-built for FirstNet, purpose-built for moving to 5G when it's available in your jurisdiction. On the Wi-Fi side of the XR series, also very exciting new technology that provides unprecedented throughput over Wi-Fi, 2.4 gigabits of throughput. Certainly, if you are connected to devices in and around a vehicle or in and around your station house with an XR80, you're going to see significant Wi-Fi performance improvements. Well beyond what we had in some of our more legacy products, the MG90 and the MP70, you can see almost double the Wi-Fi performance, and certainly well beyond some of the other competitive 2x2 MIMO solutions with only 2 antenna elements. Again, much of what you're seeing here comes from those additional antenna elements, the 4x4, the 4x5, beyond even what we had to capture in our previous versions of routers. A significant differentiator for us, and Mike is working with us on this to do some additional testing, both with mega range and 5G and 4G, and all of the differences between the various radio access networks in the AT&T network. And a difference that we have patented at Sierra that provides seamless switching between all of those RANs, so that you don't, as an officer or a firefighter or an extended primary linesman, don't need to worry about where you're connected or which carrier you're connected to. We have a patented technology called cognitive wireless. And what do we use to switch between those radio access networks can be programmed at your bidding, so to speak. You can decide that your first priority is to stay connected on a FirstNet APN, and given a certain perhaps signal strength, can override and move to a secondary carrier or even a satellite carrier. And a third priority might be, if I am going at a certain speed and I'm near the depot, I really don't want to go over satellite or over FirstNet. I want to connect over my depot Wi-Fi. So the flexibility of cognitive wireless allows you to leverage truly what your least cost route is, or what your desire is for a particular interconnection. You may want to provide a geofence around a certain area and provide routing based on that geofence. It really isn't just about routing on signal strength. Many times even signal strength can be a little bit elusive, in that if the network is, for whatever reason, not performing correctly at that particular point, you may want to switch, and so throughput may be what you want to switch your WAN link on. Again, the XR80s and the 5G architecture of them allows you to do that with cognitive wireless. Another huge difference in the XR80 is all of us are worried about security, and we'll talk a little bit more about once you have coverage, once you have control of your network, how do you layer on and make sure that with 5G and the attack surface of 5G, as that becomes broader, the importance of providing layered on security. What happens with layered on security and encryption technologies is that adds a layer of complexity, and it also adds a throughput charge on top of that in terms of minimizing your throughput because of the encryption. What the XR80 does is in hardware accelerates the encryption and de-encryption on VPN tunnels and provides you a real boost in terms of your throughput. So as Mike was talking about, 5 megabits up and down gets you a HD class video. With VPN acceleration in the XR80, you can triple that number from in the instance shown here, about 50 sessions, up to 3 times that number of sessions in the XR80 platform. And what we do and are really excited about doing, we've done this in hundreds of jurisdictions across the country now, is provide you the ability, along with Mike and his team, to really show where coverage is and provide you coverage maps. So you don't have to rely on the carrier. You don't have to rely on us, on Mike or myself. We can provide you with tools that allow you to do these advanced mobility reports and these coverage maps. As you drive in vehicles, we can provide you what we call coverage trails, along with all of the associated data that the router is connecting as you drive these routes. So you can drive these routes with multiple RAN interconnects, both with FirstNet, both with commercial AT&T, as well as even a tertiary connection, the high power user equipment, mega range, and show with an instant click where your network is strong, which of those technologies is going to get you the best coverage, and what your throughput characteristics are on those routes. And so just an incredible mapping tool to, at a glance, show where your coverage is strong and areas that may need improvement. Again, I alluded to this earlier, but the AirLink solution, as 5G is rolled out across the country, you may be in an area where 5G is not pervasive yet, and so you don't want to pay for the additional cost of a 5G router, or you don't want the additional cost of 5G service. We can provide you and future-proof you with the XR platform with what we call this cartridge-based technology. So you can see here depicted the 4G device with a sidecar technology, so you can get the highest performing 4G LTE Advanced Pro with what Mike described as 5G evolution or 5GE. You'll notice that on your phone. You'll see a little marker on your phone frequently that says 5GE. That's this technology. And when the 5GE goes away and all you see on your phone is 5G, it doesn't mean that those 4G LTE Cat20 interconnection bands are not there. It simply means that the 5G bands have now become available in your jurisdiction. So you can future-proof yourself today with the 4G platform, with the 5G extended, 5G evolution, 5GE, and then when the pure Goldilocks spectrum comes to town, you can add the sidecar 5G radio without having to do a forklift upgrade. So no matter where you are in your implementation path, AT&T, FirstNet, and Sierra have your back, whether it is whether you're operating in fire services and have video or engine diagnostics or laptops or tablets in your vehicle or in and around your officers on your truck company. We got your back. I used to be a firefighter and paramedic, and I wish I had this technology in the back of the ambulance. Sierra Wireless and FirstNet are now in 75 to 80% of ambulances in the field. This provides you, again, unprecedented interconnection in the back of the ambulance for EKG monitoring, for communication with the hospital, with patient care record delivery, and again, the security is paramount here around you know, the HIPAA requirements, etc. And so again, start with Sierra or start with FirstNet for EMS services. We covered a lot here in the last 35-40 minutes. Ultimately, what you've seen a lot of the technology, the advanced 5G technology, the mega range technology. What we're here to do as organizations is to make this all simple for you. It's the most advanced technology in the world in terms of maximum throughput, low latency, and what we're more than just talking about routers here. We're talking about what network core is important, what are the spectrum allocations on those networks, and how to architect your network for maximum 5G performance. We want to do that in a way that provides you with the best operational simplicity and maximizes your control over the network and over your equipment, the user devices in and around your vehicles, in and around your stations, in and around your jurisdictions. And what is ultimately very important, beyond just coverage, beyond just appropriate speeds and enhanced and better latency characteristics, is that end-to-end security. Make no mistake about it, in the 5G world, again, the threat surfaces, the attack surfaces will expand because more and more 5G devices will explode onto these connected networks. But with a trusted FirstNet core, with end-to-end security provided either with APNs from FirstNet or overlay security FIPS 140-2 architectures from Sierra Wireless, you don't have to fear about your end-to-end security from your building all the way to your vehicles and your connected devices. In addition to this presentation that will be downloaded, you'll have in this presentation this slide, which provides you with free resources from Sierra that speaks to many of the things that I just talked about, or that Mike just talked about, the future of 5G and public safety and how to interconnect. And what I have found and other customers have found to be an invaluable resource, this 5G router solution evaluation guide. This will provide you with a matrix of how to essentially evaluate 5G services and mega range services, how to evaluate the 5G routers available from Sierra Wireless and any other vendors that you may be evaluating. Again, you can always reach out to me or Mike. Our contact information will be made available to you both just after the presentation as well as in future emails to you. Feel free to reach out to each, either Mike or myself, if you have questions about anything in the presentation or anything in these additional free resources that are available at these web links. So with that said, I am going to essentially end my presentation slides, and I hope to be able to show you, Laura Donna, if you can switch just to my camera. I want to show folks an XR80 just here in hand. You know, and just give you this is not just slideware. This is, you know, real world devices. You can see the various interconnections on the back of the device. And again, to my point of your 4x4 MIMO interconnection to your cellular radios here, 4 elements for your 5G radio, 5 elements for your Wi-Fi radio, 1 element for GPS or GNSS for your locations. And then, as you can see, as I alluded to, 1 antenna element that is always on. So what 5G allows us to do, and low power wide area radios allow us to do, is prepay for your interconnection to your management platform within the device. So there's nothing to, when you originally unbox the device, from a management perspective, you can remotely control this device with that radio lead. What you see here also, I've alluded to a 5 gigabit Ethernet port, 2 additional 1 gig Ethernet ports. So in terms of the routing engine that you have in your vehicle, you are not going to be gated by the throughput of this device. You're going to be, all of us will be waiting for additional radio access networks to come online, additional spectrum, additional Goldilocks spectrum, additional mega range spectrum to come online for you to fully utilize this device. Additionally, you'll see here's where the sidecar bolts on. So if and when you want a second 5G radio, or you have a 4G radio in the base unit and want to add a 5G radio, that sidecar bolts on to the side here. So I think we're ready for questions. Thanks to everyone for joining. Martha, back to you.
Great. Oh, those presentations were amazing. Eldon, go ahead, Mike and Eldon. If you want to bring your cameras on, we'll just do a little Q&A. I've got to say that, you know, I've come up through the ranks, and so I've been in the jump seat all the way up to, you know, a chief officer position. So I've also gone through that evolution of, I just want it to work, to I want to understand how it works, you know, within the context of being a first responder. And you guys did a really great job of tying that all together, so the end user can understand how that experience is going to be enhanced, and then those that have a little bit more of that technical expertise got to really learn about how this 5G transition is going to roll out. And I just loved how the Sierra Wireless presentation tied that all together. Eldon, you did a great job, so thank you. So a couple questions that we have for you all. I think one of the biggest questions is like the migration. Everybody's concerned about, you know, one system being shut off while the other one's being turned on. What happens during this transition? So Eldon, if you could give us your perspective from Sierra Wireless's side of the house, and then we can also ask Mike the same question. Can you give us a quick synopsis of what some of the challenges are going to be with the 5G migration?
Yeah, I think as you probably saw, I was a little bit challenged to hold the device because it's so heavy with heat dissipation, and
Oh,
so that's one of the challenges. I would say that, Mike referred to one of the flavors as chocolate. I would refer to it as hot chocolate. As you get higher and higher throughputs, higher and higher speeds, things get hot. And so make sure, and you'll see this in the evaluation guide, make sure that you are optimizing your evaluation for heat dissipation across all those bands, and make sure that you are selecting a device that can operate effectively and efficiently on all of the bands that are available today, including the mega range bands and high power capability, power class 1 in the uplink. That's extremely important, again, for being able to get that reach, as well as future proofing your devices, as we mentioned with the XR series routers. So as new Goldilocks spectrum is operationalized, as Mike mentioned, you can bolt on additional radios and maximize your throughput on those additional radio access networks. Those are the challenges in my mind, Martha.
do you have mounting recommendations, Eldon, from Sierra Wireless's point of view? You help the customer optimize that mounting so that the heat dissipation can be facilitated, right?
Yeah, and I think the other challenges that I alluded to, and Mike alluded to them as well, are not only mounting so that you have appropriate heat dissipation, but Mike knows this. When you're mounting on a vessel in the sea, you need to make sure that you have the appropriate ground plane for the antennas, that you place the antennas so that you don't have long coax runs of antenna wire to provide loss in the coax cables. And so the simple answer to your question is yes, we do. It's a very consultative approach, frequently based on what type of vehicle or what type of vessel you're, or in building where you're mounting your device and your antenna in and around your building.
Yeah, and it really goes back to my initial point of the spectrum of understanding and knowledge that sometimes can be out there within that public safety environment. It sounds like you guys are really prepared to provide a great deal of consultation and make sure that whatever's getting installed is optimized. So that's really great. You don't just hand them the device and say, Godspeed, good luck with this. So, hey, Mike, what are your perspectives from the FirstNet AT&T? Some of the typical challenges that 5G migration is going to pose.
So the first thing, and I'm going to jump on what Eldon said the second. Number one is we are focused on customer success and user success, that they do get the higher speeds, they get the higher reliability, that they can connect a bazillion IoT things, that the latency is substantially lower. And our focus is really to make sure that the customers see that it's a seamless transition as possible. We all know, everybody that's been through a new transition from XG to YG, that there's always going to be a few little bobbles in there. We're going to be there to stand with the customers. But there have been, what we've seen so far, some challenges. Number one, let me go back and echo what Eldon said, and that is you've got to buy the right device. We have more than one customer that have literally taken a router off of their desk, put it in their vehicle, and it worked great for a few hours. I think one guy even made about a month. But the problem is those are not made for the mobile environment. They're not made for the heat to be put in a trunk and left in the baking sun. So you really need to buy the right solution. The mobile routers, the XR series, I have an MGA right now in my vehicle. It's rock solid. A police officer could use it as a weapon if they needed to. It's that heavy. But you need to make sure that you're buying the right product for that solution. I really like the wings that they've got on the XR80. And I think that's a very good choice, particularly if you need to go ahead and do something now. You can get the XR80, add additional capability when you go forward. But our focus really, Martha, is to try to make this as seamless as possible for customers. That's the purpose of the Mission Critical Solutions team, is to help identify what are solutions appropriate for that customer, and give them the pro and the con. We will be very, very upfront with you about this is good or this is not. We've told customers very frankly that, you know, this was not the right solution for them, and then suggested that, you know, another alternative to that. But I think the real key here is just make sure you're getting the right equipment as you're doing the transition, and that you make small steps. Don't tear everything out, add 10,000 new sensors and hope it all works. You know, put something in there side by side, take little steps. Every time you make a step, that's success. When you plug something in, it doesn't work, at least you know it's not the whole system. The debug is simpler, the frustration is substantially less. That's my advice.
Yeah, and I really love the parallel concept, right? To unplug one and plug in another clearly is leaving you wide open for a litany of problems with the transition. So as we're talking about this 5G transition, let's talk about the value add, you know, because it always will come down to dollars and cents as far as that public safety budget. So as we're looking at this transition, where do you feel, we'll start with you, Eldon, where do you feel the value add is really going to be realized with the 5G transition for the first responders?
Well, it's really all of those values that Mike mentioned right up front in the beginning of his presentation. You know, you have the ability to massively interconnect devices at low speeds, but with thousands of connections and a geography that's, you know, in the hundreds of kilometers squared versus in, you know, tens of kilometers squared. You have character, and it results, for instance, in what we've built into the router that I was showing you here. We can price in to this router the price of that low power wide area radio for the life of this device. There's no subscription on that particular radio to interconnect the remote management of this device. It's built in. You can connect to your back office cloud remotely. You can turn that radio off if you're worried about, you know, security, or you can run a VPN over top of it. But right out of the box, you're connected to that device and you can control that device. That's really because of what we've been doing with repurposing 5G spectrum. And we don't oftentimes talk about that. We talk about the high speeds, the low latencies, but I have to say, you know, you're going to be seeing more and more devices in the marketplace, including those from Sierra Wireless, that some of that management connectivity over cellular is going to be built in for the lifetime of the device and priced in accordingly in the device's upfront cost.
See, and I used to be over procurement, so you've definitely perked up my ears, right? Because nobody likes to be blindsided by surprise fees and surprise costs. So, you know, if someone can be looking at this and creating a budget and finding out, you know, where that sweet spot is for what they can afford, and then be, you know, fairly reliably comfortable and confident that that's going to be what they are going to be getting, and that will be what the bill reflects. That's really, really important with the tight budgets that we're dealing with right now for public safety. So, hey, Mike, I want to shift a little bit to your discussion about mega range. We kind of talked about 5G and mega range and throughout your presentation. Can you talk a little bit about how mega range is different from 5G? Can we differentiate what those two items are and then how they might work together?
Absolutely. Mega range is about coverage, period. We're going to provide coverage with mega range in places where the coverage is either poor or it doesn't quite get there. Several really good examples here. Ambulance service in upstate New York. They constantly have to transport patients from small towns to larger cities, typically 35 to 50 miles. Much of that is hills. Nearly all of it is heavily treed, or lots of trees there. What they found with Mega Range in particular, Martha, is that now, instead of having spotty coverage of a 35-mile trip for maybe 5 to 10 miles of that, they've got rock solid coverage for all but about half of a mile. That's pretty typical of what we're seeing with many customers. Again, if you've got band 14 available, then Mega Range is definitely going to make a difference there. We've seen in Texas, in West Texas in particular, where the towers are very far apart, where many of these coverage holes don't necessarily totally disappear, but where we may have had 50% coverage, the users now have maybe 75 to 90% coverage. We've seen that in pretty much every state across the nation, where you're able to get coverage, signals, the ability to get that full motion video, the availability and ability to literally keep talking, whether it's FirstNet push to talk or EPTT or rapid response. You can continue to do that because you have the connectivity. We're not about speeds. There are engineering trade-offs with Mega Range specifically to ensure that it's coverage centric and not that 5G speeds. That's the real difference.
And I got to tell you, I mean, how important is it to maintain that connection to your medical control when you're out there with a patient that is potentially in a very compromised status, right? I can't even imagine how much more comfort and for everybody, right, on the receiving end and for those medics in the back of the ambulance to be able to continually feed status input from that patient to where that patient is going to be received, and getting that subject matter expertise from those medical control professionals. I mean, it's just immeasurable what that rural community is gaining with this type of connection. So we've got about 3 minutes left. I want to talk very, very quickly about the mapping and what implications that has on getting the feedback back to FirstNet to bridge those gaps and fill in those gaps. So Eldon, you did a great job talking about the mapping and how you can actually measure where your coverage is. Mike, very quickly, can you talk a little bit about how that feedback is managed and what happens to it and how it precipitates out into action?
Great question. Thanks, Martha. We really appreciate the partnership with Sierra Wireless and Eldon in particular on being able to do this. What we're doing with Sierra Wireless is a customer can request a mapping. This is live mapping of Mega Range. We can also do that differential compared to existing coverage that you've got, and literally show the difference where you have additional coverage with Mega Range. What that really does is it shows effectively a larger service area where FirstNet can provide greater capability than they may be able to with either another carrier or with standard AT&T coverage. The other thing we're seeing in many instances now also is that we're able to supplant a significant amount of satellite coverage because we can reach further out into those areas with railroads and other entities that are way out in the middle of nowhere. In many instances, we're able to show them that they can cut that satellite bill down by more than enough to pay for the Mega Range equipment in the first few months. So lots of capabilities, great partnership with Sierra Wireless in doing this. They can contact myself or Eldon or their other partner at FirstNet or Sierra Wireless, and we'll be happy to try to get that area mapped for them.
All right, and that's fantastic. There's a really robust interaction now between public safety and FirstNet, which has never, ever been in place before. I mean, really, in the past, public safety had to kind of bend to the will of where the money was for these LTE providers, and now it's just a whole different game. So I'd really like to thank Mike and Eldon for their presentations today, and we really hope that you enjoyed our webinar and felt that it was time well spent. We deeply appreciate your participation, and we will be providing links to the PDF versions of these presentations in addition to a recording of the webinar in a post-webinar email that will be sent out in a day or two. By being here today, you really help support our efforts to continually bring you cutting-edge information about FirstNet, the nation's only fully dedicated mission-critical first responder network, and all aspects of the ecosystem that are being purpose-built for your advantage. We'd like to invite you to visit our webpage at thepsbta.org. There you'll find more information about our association, the Vision Summit, upcoming webinars, and recordings of all of our previous webinars. In appreciation for your attendance today, you will receive a free one-year membership to our association. You'll be receiving a discount code in that follow-up email that you can use during checkout when you register. Please let your friends and peers know that by attending one of our webinars, it does include the free membership to the PSBTA, which is a $75 value as a gift from us, as we all still are continuing to navigate our ever-changing world. Finally, consider visiting allthingsfirstnet.com as well. Their team is continually compiling valuable information on FirstNet and the developing ecosystem. This concludes our webinar, Unlock FirstNet 5G Experience for First Responders with Sierra Wireless Solutions. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Thanks, Martha.
Thank you very much.